Welcome back to another episode of Norse Studies with Zakk. We're going over the culture of the Teutons. If you haven't watched any of my episodes, they're in 10-minute intervals. We're just reading this together. Feel free to start at any episode that you've missed. Go back through my page. You can catch up with us. It's pretty easy. We're just going to go through this book together, kind of discern what Wilhelm Grönbeck is trying to say about Norse culture. Let us imagine that this idea of his is not merely a piece of poetic imagery, but that life itself, with all its tasks, appeared as a lawsuit, where a man with many and powerful kinsmen could further his aims and fortunes, materially and spiritually, gaining power over his surroundings, not only by battle, but by oath, in virtue of that power of race which he and his possessed. Let us further imagine that his faith in the power of kinship and kinsman help is great enough to reach out beyond life and embrace death itself within its scope, believing itself capable of summoning and outswearing the gods, aye, shaking heaven and earth. Eagle's words have then a new significance. They lose nothing, page 17, of their weight, but they become anything but modern. The titanic defiance disappears, or almost disappears, and in its place we have the despairing cry of a suffering human soul. The paradox, then, lies where we at first discerned it, but in quite another direction. And reading now from these words backward and forward, the other verses that at first flowed so glidely from our tongue will have gained a strange power and violence. Both where he speaks of a string torn out of him, a breach, and also where he calls to mind his son's help and reveals his own discouragement when he looks about him in the fight for one to aid him. It would be strange if we did not now feel, in the place of the confident enjoyment of the words, a sense of uncertainty that makes us hesitate at every line. The words have become vague because we have lost our own ground and failed to get a new foothold, torn out. Our fancy flutters doubtfully away from the metaphorical meaning, which at first appeared the only one the words could have, and hovers about the idea of an actual bleeding to death, but without finding anything to hold by. And our uncertainty cannot but increase when we discover that Eagle's image of the family as a fence, built up of stake by stake, of death as a breach in the family and those left, that these images are common, everyday illustrations, one is tempted to say, part of the technical stock in trade. We cannot give ourselves up to the mighty feeling of the poem until we have grasped exactly what it is this breach, this wound, consists of, what precise meaning lies in the word help. We begin to perceive that we must learn the meaning of every word anew. So this is why in the introduction of the book, Wilhelm is trying to convince us to drop everything we knew, right? Because we just read Eagle's entire poem, but Wilhelm's trying to explain to us, you cannot think of things as a modern day Christian if you're going to understand where Eagle's coming from. You have to wipe your slate clean, and you have to think of Eagle's poem the way people would have when they heard him speak it. Here our trust is primeval. Common feeling as a means of communication between men of different cultures breaks down for good. We cannot force our way into understanding through mere sympathy or intuition. There's no other way but to turn around and proceed from externals inward to the generally human. Briefly, we must begin with the kin, the race or family, a gathering of individuals so joined up into one unit that they appear incapable of independent action. As to the feeling which so unites them, this we must leave till later. The point here is that the individual cannot act without all acting with and through him. No single individual can suffer without affecting the whole circle. So absolute is the connection that the individual simply cannot exist by himself. A slight loosening of the bond and he slips down, the most helpless of all creatures. So Wilhelm is trying to say that family's different for them. Family, kinsmen, friends, they were different from them, right? Imagine our bodies. And our bodies have all sorts of different cells and things like that, right? Imagine each cell within our body is an ancestor, right? If you have the ones you know and that are dear and closer to you die, that leaves part of your body torn, right? Let's say, let's say I have two brothers. Okay, and as a family, my head is me, my arm's my brother, this arm's my other brother, my right leg is my mom, and my left leg is my dad. If I lose one of those, I'm gonna be a totally different person. Totally different, right? Eagle is saying that he is torn. His family is a wall. And his son is one of the pillars keeping that wall upright. And he feels like that wall is just not going to stand anymore, right? These are just analogies that I'm trying to come up with to explain how Wilhelm is explaining to me how significant the death of Eagle's son is to him. I'm going to stop right there. If you guys want to get something else out of these videos, if you want them to be longer, if you want them to be shorter, please comment below. Rate, comment, subscribe. It helps me out. Otherwise, we'll see you guys next time. Have a good one.